So today we've got the XPDI back in the garage. I forget what year this is. This is an 02, I believe. And it's starting to behave kind of, oh no, it's an 03, kind of strange. And when I'm driving and I get about 4,000 RPM, I just move the throttle like a 1/16 of an inch and it just takes right off. The other thing is when I go to start it, start, stalls, and it does that about, I don't know, 4 times, and then all of a sudden it runs fine. But immediately upon, once I shut it off and let it sit for a few minutes, I go through the same procedure again. Now that didn't do that when I first got it, and it's progressively got worse. So I can show you what happens. Not touching the throttle. Doing all kinds of crazy things. So having a look under the hood, I sort of got ahead of the game here. I'm monkeying around, pulled the fuel rail off, cleaned everything out twice, checked everything, checked the plugs, changed the plugs, just thinking it was just a simple thing. And last time when I went to bolt this down, I come by the rave solenoid, just touch the pipe, and this thing pops up like that. So right here, there was a plastic fitting that came out and went in this pipe, and that went right there down to the rave valves. And this thing had a little crack in there, I assume, because the way that I just touched it and it popped off, was letting air leak out. Now these things are so sensitive to air and fuel pressure. Every time you have a problem, everybody says the same thing. Check your fuel pressure, check your air pressure first before anything else. So sure enough, it wasn't the compressor was the problem, but I was losing air pressure right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a screw in here just for fun and see if there's any difference. So let's pop that in there. This thing is toast. They're just cheap plastic. I got a whole collection of them. They always snap off all the time. They get brittle after so many years. They have a nice brass and metal one on eBay. That was, I think, on the 2001 machines. So I've ordered it. I'm going to remove this one, put on a new metal one, but I just want to be sure that that's what the problem was and it wasn't just me breaking that off and we still have the problem. So let's just fire a screw in there and see what happens. Okay, here we go. That may block that other one off too, so can't go too far. All right. And that's just a small little leak too. Just has such a huge effect on the performance. Let's see if she'll fire up. That screw is still gonna leak, but problem solved. I've been looking at this thing been looking at this thing for half a day trying to figure out what the heck it was. You know, it was the strangest problem. I don't think I've had 2 problems exactly the same ever. I'm working on all these machines, so it's sometimes you just fluke out, and you know that would have been really hard to find. Although I guess I should have looked for air leaks or listened for them. May have heard them, but man, these things are super sensitive. So I guess our next step will be to pop that valve out and pop in the new one. At this point, it doesn't matter whether we break any more in here or not. They probably will break off because they are so brittle. But anyway, it doesn't matter because we got the new one. I heat these up with a heat gun and it makes this more pliable because this pipe is quite tough. So let's pop that out, pop in the new one, and take this thing out for a test run. So I guess we'll yank this valve out of here, or solenoid. Pretty simple. Loosen that. Try not to drop stuff down in the engine compartment. Okay. That comes off the compressor. I already cut the clamp. And that one goes to the rave solenoid, or rave valves. So I got a new one here, a new old one from another machine. And hopefully we don't break this one. So I think I'll bolt that on. These are just cheap plastic, and that's the problem. You got a whole collection of broken ones. And that one. A little loose there. Okay. This guy goes on here. Gonna have to shorten that up a bit. And I want to heat it. I don't want to be putting any tension on this thing at all. And that's on. Zip tie. Can see. Everything's held with zip ties. And this one goes down to the compressor. Again, just begging to break. I'll get a better shot of that in a second here. It's a tough one to see. I got to get a good metal clamp. Does that look like something? Okay. And the next connection is this guy here. He goes on here. Just slides in. Another zip tie. I don't know, for all the pressure that's in here and how it affects the engine, you would think it would, maybe they were all Oedeker clips at one time. Okay, and another one on here. Snip that off, I guess. Snip that one off. That one. And shall we hook up some juice? Okay, that is now replaced. Now I should hook up the Can-Do Pro to see if it's actually activating before we put this thing in the water. Or we could do a test fire. Let's do a test fire. And test start, take one. That's not a good start. Well, hallelujah. That's amazing. So we learned something big time this time in that, well, I knew it, but I've never experienced it, how sensitive it is to these air lines. And that, again, comes right off the compressor. And that little bit of loss of air just by a crack in that valve caused this thing to run terrible. Just would not stay running. You had to start, stop so many times, and then finally, I guess it built up enough pressure that it would keep it running. But I have to do a test now because between 40 and 42, it would just take off. It runs great, but it's like really sensitive. Just that little bit of throttle response makes a difference of about 10 miles an hour. So I think our next step is to put this thing on the trailer, throw it in the water, and take it for a test drive. So that's what we're gonna do. Plugs are in. I don't know. I guess we'll see. And let's see if she starts without stalling. Problem solved, just like that. I love it. That is so awesome. Good idle, should be right around 1430. We're not really probably going 50. There you go. That's the Can-Do Pro resetting. Now that speedo should work. Response is fixed. That's great. One more test. I just love it when you sort out these mystery problems. That's terrible. Beep, 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 beep. Well, can't tell you how happy I am. We've obviously resolved the issue, and everything is starting and running perfect. It resolved the erratic speed issue, you know, that like I would move the throttle from there to there, from there to there, and it would be like 15 miles an hour difference. It was absolutely crazy. So that's all evened out. So you can see how sensitive these things are to air pressure. They won't run properly, they won't start, they won't idle. I see why people say they're a mechanic's nightmare, because it's really hard to diagnose any problems. But anyway, we got this one fixed. It runs absolutely wonderful. So I guess now I've got to move on to the next one, which I will show you in the next video. Another catastrophic failure, but I already have the parts to fix it, so that one will be proceeding right shortly. So until the next one, have a good one. I also had someone ask about these things. He felt like it was sinking, and these things are quite front end heavy, so as you can see when you're driving along, they do plow through the water and you can actually sink it right down. And you think you're sinking, but you're not, unless you are. Anyway, that's enough of that.